Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, California governor's debate was canceled because of racism? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Earlier this morning, Governor Turd Ferguson, and from now on, we're not calling him Bob anymore. He is just a turd. Governor Turd Ferguson signed the income tax, the unconstitutional state income tax, championed by the Democrats, which not a single Republican voted for, into law, despite being warned by the business community that this was anti-business, despite people saying we are moving out of here and taking our companies with us, despite every editorial page of every single paper in the U.S., left, right, and center, saying this is economic suicide. He did it anyway. For everybody who says, oh, Bob Ferguson, he's so smart, he's so smart, he's so smart. Yeah, exactly, him. You know why he's not so smart? I'm going to tell you why he's not so smart. Because he has signed not just his own death warrant politically, but also Washington State's. From this moment forward, he is the guy who signed the largest tax increase in state history and a bill that chased all the tech companies, all the wealth, all the revenue out of Washington State, that took an economy that was surplus, huge, extra, more than we needed. And then instead, what did he do? Flushed it all down the toilet. How do I know this is already happening? Oh, Ari, it's only going to affect the rich people. Have any of you actually read this thing? It is a complete revamp of our entire tax code system. What this thing does, oh, by the way, you may not have noticed this, in the budget that the Democrats passed, it has money for the hiring of hundreds of new agents for the Washington Department of Revenue. They're creating their own IRS over there. You don't need hundreds of agents for a few millionaires and billionaires. You need it because you plan on taxing all of us. The Democrats refused at any point to make this limited to the millionaires, to the billionaires. It's going to apply to everybody, and they have admitted as much. How many times have they gone on record saying that? How many times have they dodged the questions when asked about it and refused to say it's only going to be on the millionaires and billionaires? They want this for everybody. The Center Square pulled up the multiple listing service, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. That's where houses are, right? It showed the number of homes priced at $2 million or more spiked immediately after state lawmakers approved the new income tax. On March 12th, the day after the legislature passed the tax, 53 high-end homes were listed for sale. On that same date, 1 year earlier, there were just 32 listings. That's a 65% increase. On February 4th, the day the income tax proposal was first introduced in the state Senate, 16 luxury homes were listed compared to 11 the same day in 2025. You don't list homes in February, typically. A lot of people don't list them in March unless you're really trying to break or beat the spring rush. You list them in April, you list them in May because houses look prettier, and that's the time of year people are usually looking. Realtors told the Center Square that some clients move quickly to list multi-million-dollar properties, specifically in response to the passage of the income tax. The concern was echoed by a guy named Robert C. Wallace, chairman of Wallace Properties, who described what he sees as growing flight of wealth out of the state. He wrote in a LinkedIn post, quote, "There's been a trickle of friends relocating since the huge estate tax increased some years ago. But after last year's bump to 35%, it became a flood." He said, "I swear the majority of my friends are already taking steps to legally change their domicile." He didn't mince words about who he believes is responsible. Quote, "Most Democrats know full well the damage they're causing to the state's economy for decades to come." He accused them of political pandering over long-term economic health of our state. Now, we know that this is also affecting the office market. And I saw this coming from COVID, but it's worse than even I figured it would be. Downtown Seattle has over a 33% vacancy. We know that the buildings down there have lost billions of their value and revenue, because what's a building worth if it doesn't have a tenant who's occupying it, and nobody's going to move in anytime soon? Most of the vacancy is how much space Amazon had, but Amazon picked up and left because of the jumpstart tax passed here by the Seattle City Council when nobody was paying attention during COVID. It was the same thing as the head tax from years ago, where they said, oh, too bad you got all those high-earning jobs. We want some of your money. We're going to take it. Now, Turd Ferguson, earlier today, when he was having his little kumbaya fiesta celebratory moment about taking all your money, what's so messed up is all these Democrats clapping over the seizing of people's property. They are celebrating the fact that they are taking money. And by the way, most of it is not going to anything they promised. Here's Turd Ferguson.
Now it's time to sign this legislation. Now, for those who've been here before, you know, of course, the prime sponsors typically receive a pen from the governor. I'm going to use the governor's prerogative and use one pen, keep it for myself, if that's okay with everybody. And then, of course, one for Speaker Jenkins.
So you would think right there that he's proud of it, right? Because he wants to keep the pen. This is a show. Let's hear what else he had to say, and I'm going to explain why.
We've had many conversations, and just like the majority leader helped on the Senate side, obviously Speaker Jenkins, on the House side, your leadership was critical, and we had many conversations over the last couple months. I'm so deeply appreciative. So I'm going to use 4 pens if my math is right. So I'll start with the first one. Give a round of applause to Speaker Jenkins for her leadership. Okay. Next up. Signs up, please. Joe Fitzgibbon, where are you? There you are, sir. Give a round of applause for Representative Fitzgibbon. And, of course, for Senator Peterson. So I have I covered everybody?
Yep.
Covered all.
You
Wonderful.
did
All right, excellent. And now it's time to hold this wonderful bill up. Give a round of applause for everybody and their hard work on this legislation.
Yeah, just keep clapping, right?
So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause.
Now, what happened right after this is normally when you have something that's so historic, as they kept calling it, and so monumental and so game-changing, you have a press conference. And you say, I will take your questions now. What questions would you like me to answer? Nope. This thing was shut down with the quickness. In fact, it was coordinated with TVW, which is our very own local C-SPAN, to shut it down right away. Normally, that camera stays on. Well, everybody shakes hands and everybody kisses babies and all that. That thing faded to black like it was on cue. No questions. So Turd Ferguson, during this press conference, he brings up a single mom who talks about how hard it is raising kids here in Washington. Then he brings up some guy from the tech community who nobody's heard of, but if you go over to his LinkedIn profile, he talks about how much he's in favor of the most far-left progressive insanity you've ever heard in your life. He works for IBM, which I never heard anybody mention in, the last 20 years or so, since all of us first got personal computers in the 1990s. And that's about it. That's his press conference, because nobody else will back this up, because it's insane. So why is he not taking any questions? Because even a bad reporter would say, Governor, we see examples of capital flight already. We see examples of business leaving the state. We see examples of the wealthy putting their homes on the market. So are you concerned about that? That's the first question that any sane person is going to ask, and Bob has no answer for it at all, because as dumb as he is acting, he is not stupid. And he knows that's exactly what's happening. But the Democrats want their tax. And if he doesn't give the far-left progressives what they want, they're going to run somebody against him in the primary, and all he cares about right now is staying governor of Washington or reaching higher office. Now, a lot of you who are frustrated right now are thinking to yourselves, what can we actually do about this? Before the tax was even signed, the Citizen Action Defense Fund announced that they are going to be challenging this thing legally in court because it's unconstitutional. And who's going to be running the lawsuit? Rob McKenna, former Attorney General of Washington State. So you've got the legal approach. We're going to speak to Jackson Maynard from the Citizen Action Defense Fund at 4:30 today about the case itself. So we're going to talk about that. Now, a lot of you are saying, what good does that do, Ari? We have 5 Supreme Court justices here in Washington up for election, and the left is just going to steal those elections. Well, the Washington State GOP is running a voter ID initiative. In addition to that, likely in June, the U.S. Supreme Court is likely going to rule that you can't count ballots after Election Day, which is going to help too. So I don't want to hear all the excuses we used to have. You want to fix this? This is how you fix it. And we have to find good candidates to register to run for the Washington State Supreme Court in the next couple days because the filing deadline is soon. I think 4 out of the 5, we already have people for it. I got to double check on that 5th. So we've got good candidates stepping up. That's another battle at the ballot box. Next, this announcement came out from Let's Go Washington. Quote, in response to Governor Ferguson, ignoring the will of the people and signing an unconstitutional income tax into state law, Let's Go Washington founder Brian Haywood issued the following statement. Quote, today, Let's Go Washington is filing a referendum to repeal Governor Ferguson's income tax. We are filing this referendum to repeal Governor Ferguson's unconstitutional income tax because, unlike King Bob, we believe that the framers of our state's constitution meant it when they wrote, all political power is inherent in the people, and the governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. Our state constitution is the law of the land and not a suggestion for the legislature and the governor to just ignore on a whim. The capital gains tax, the estate tax, and now the income tax is driving entrepreneurs, businesses, and employees away from the state. This hastily drafted, poorly written, and unconstitutional income tax forces thousands of small businesses to scramble to understand how much more they'll be forced to pay in taxes. They loudly preached affordability, then dropped an income tax on all Washingtonians. Let's Go Washington remains dedicated to fixing what's broken in Olympia, which means we're going to have a referendum. They didn't put an emergency clause on this bill like we expected them to. Democrats put emergency clauses on everything because they want to make it harder for you to file a referendum against it, which requires less signatures than an initiative. They put some other weird thing on it, which we'll discuss with Jackson Maynard later, but they left the door open to a referendum at this point. So we're going to need you to go out there and collect signatures just like you did for all the other initiatives. And we're going to need to get this sucker on the ballot for November. And we have a very tight timeline to do so. That's why Bob Ferguson delayed signing the income tax as long as he did, specifically so that you have less time to collect those signatures. All of this needs to be working together with one final piece. Filing day is just a few days away for candidates in the Washington State Legislature, and you need to challenge them. Now, you're not going to be able to challenge all of them at one time, which is what we want to do. But over time, you need to get rid of as many of them as possible. There are about 6 to 8 targeted races where you can go after some of the worst in the Washington State Legislature who supported this thing, who voted for this thing, and you can get rid of them. And if you get rid of them, all of a sudden, these Democrats are going to realize there is a severe backlash to their bad policies. For those of you right now who are considering leaving, I get it. Believe me, I do. I don't think there's a single family with common sense here in Washington that hasn't considered leaving. Because they look at the math and they go, why should I pay all these insane taxes where I don't have to do that in other states? It's not like we're getting any bang for our buck with our services. Look at our roads. Look at our bridges. Look at our police department. Look at our fire department. Look at what's going on around here. Look at our parks. Look at our streets. Look at our sidewalks. We got homeless everywhere. We got drug addicts everywhere. I get it if you're talking about leaving. But for those of you who want to stay and fight, it's not enough to just vote anymore. You got to step up. Donating to Let's Go Washington to help with the referendum process. Going out there and gathering signatures. And for those of you who work your tail off every time, I know I'm asking a lot, but we got to do this again. And you got to send the message to these you-know-whats in Olympia that they have crossed a line, and there are so many common sense people who are not Republicans who are on our side with this. This was all anybody could talk about this weekend when I was hanging out with my friends. All they could talk about was the income tax. When is he going to sign it? Is it actually law? Do we stay? Do we go? How are we going to fight? And I'm sure you're having those exact same conversations. And here's something else that's fascinating to me. The Seattle Times today ran 2 articles because the Seattle Times realizes how unpopular this bill is. And the Seattle Times is getting tired of getting kicked in the nuts by people like me, calling them out from not actually doing journalism. So I find it fascinating. They barely touched this during the legislative session when maybe they could have inspired more people to speak out against this craziness. Now, today, that it's signed into law, now you run these 2 articles? The first one is by Gene Balk, their FYI guy. Headline, number of people leaving Washington jumps. Oh, really? Really? You're finally admitting that. He writes, before COVID, an average of about 198,400 Washington residents moved to another state each year. In the years since 2020, that figure rose to roughly 233,100, an increase of nearly 34,700 people per year, about 18%. I pulled these numbers from U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey, which asked respondents where they lived 1 year earlier. Why do you think he just pulled these numbers now? These numbers have been sitting there a long time. We've talked about these numbers on the show. And yet, why is the Seattle Times pulling them today? Because they realize the tide is turning and they want to be on the other side. They don't want their subscribers to continue dropping them. They don't want to lose more subscribers, but they want to keep the left happy. So they wait until the tax goes in to see which way the wind is blowing, and then they write articles like this. They said, out-migration peaked sharply in 2021. So those numbers have been around for 4 years. When more than 280,000 people left, remained high at 2022, where 253,000 people left, and then it continued on. Now they're finally reporting this? Well, I guess welcome to the party, pal, but they're not quite there yet. Then Jim Brunner, Seattle Times political reporter, finally comes out with an article saying, yeah, all that stuff they're promising where this income tax is actually going to go, it's not actually going to go to any of that. It's going to go to government programs. It's not going to go to small businesses. It's not going to help single moms. It's not going to help anything else. It's going to go to government programs because the Seattle Times knows their numbers. They know their circulation. They know they're in trouble. And if they keep losing subscribers because you don't trust them anymore, and you should unsubscribe from the Seattle Times, do not reward this bad behavior. You say, where the hell have you guys been the entire legislative session? You endorsed Bob Ferguson. You endorsed the people who sponsored this income tax. You endorsed most of the Democrats who voted for this tax. This is your fault. You endorsed Bob Ferguson even after admitting all his shortcomings and how bad he was at the job just because you didn't want to endorse the Republican. No, Seattle Times, you're not getting any praise from me. I am calling you out for finally telling the truth, which you should have been doing this whole time, and maybe you would have had a chance of stopping it. But no, you get no praise from me at this at all. Because this is just as much your fault as the Democrats. You helped get all the people elected who supported this insanity. Do I think we can win this fight? Yes. Do I think it's going to be a hard battle? Absolutely. Do I think the eyes of the country are on us? Absolutely, I do. Do I know it's going to be a hard uphill battle? Absolutely. Why? Because I know how many people have left. And I know how many people are disenfranchised. And I know how many people don't want to be involved, but I am seeing a light at the edge of my vision. I am seeing a light on the horizon. I am seeing a bit of hope. And you know what that is? This woke up so many people who were not active before. Why did I have person after person after person from the tech community on the show, specifically to show you that people who are not politically involved before are politically involved now? Because as I look over the Cascade Mountain Range in the distance outside my window, this place is gorgeous. This place is beautiful. This place is worth fighting for. And maybe, finally, the few who are left will actually step up and do it. And I'll caution you about something else. This is the last fight. If we lose this battle, we will not be able to win the next one. Because too many people will go, we gave it our all, and now we're out. If we lose this battle, that's it. Washington's done. It'll stay pretty until there's just needles everywhere. It'll stay pretty until the entire downtown is abandoned, where 33% of it is already. The mountains will still be there. They'll be here long after all of us. But the Washington you and I know and love, it's going to be really, really hard to make any excuses to stay here at all anymore. This is the last fight. I'm not going to say it's the most important election of your lifetime. I hate when people say that. But this is the last chance to save Washington. I truly do believe that. Tell me if you're staying for the fight. Tell me if you're out of here. Tell me if you're up for the fight. Tell me if you think we have a chance of winning the fight. Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And if that all wasn't bad enough for you, Katie Wilson has now said she wants to do a Seattle income tax and copy the same stupid policies. Is she not looking what's downtown? We'll tell you about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. I love the KVI audience. Ari, those are the Olympics, not the Cascades. Sorry, right. Cascades are out my house window. Olympics are out the studio window. My bad. Sorry. I'm sorry.
You're not the first to have done that on these airwaves
We've
before.
all,
Yeah.
I think, around here done this like 3 or 4 times at this point already. Yes, we've all done that. Anywho, a lot of you are saying on the text line, Ari, how can we help? How can we get involved? Well, here's what we're going to do from now on. We're going to give you action items. Here's today's action item. Go to Let's Go WA. That's LETSGOWA.com. On their website, you can request the signature sheets. Now, they're not going to come to you right away, but you give them a few days to get everything done they need to do. Give them a little bit of time. And as soon as those signature sheets are ready to go, they will be sent to your house. In fact, right now, as we are on air, I am going to hear the typing in the background. I am going to actually fill this out to request signature sheets to my house. All they ask for is your name, email address, phone number, and your actual address so they can mail these things to you. And you got to get them from your friends. So I'm clicking request sheets. Okay. Now, for those of you who are DMing me or texting me right now and saying, Ari, I already moved, but I want to help with the fight, go to Let's Go Washington right now and donate. We need your money. We need your help. And the reason we need that is you need to run ads, and you need to hire signature gatherers, and you need to do all things it takes to push back on this kind of stuff. So go to letsgowa.com and make sure you give a donation right now. Uh-oh, I'm going to lose my press pass again. I'm advocating for an issue. Oh, wait, what can they do? They already took it away from me. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
A lot of thoughts today, but I'm going to put it this way. You know, I may be sad over missing out on the Badass Hoochie connection, but that's not why I'm calling.
Okay.
You may think I'm a guy of the left, but I'm more a guy of the middle. And one of the things I'm involved in is something that requires an incredible amount of volunteerism and this thing called philanthropy. It's called historical aircraft preservation. And when the philanthropy dries up, a lot of special events that require extra money, like air shows and arts and even libraries and schools, is going to be severely hit.
Oh, yeah.
And
Anything that relies on donors is going to be severely hit. I mean, why would any company, like you think Starbucks is going to continue sponsoring the things around here they sponsor when the corporation's not here anymore? There's a reason that Coca-Cola sponsors the stuff locally, in addition to their big national campaigns, because that's where they're from. You think Starbucks is going to keep funding that stuff when they're not here anymore? You think Amazon is going to keep funding that stuff when they're not here anymore? But also the regular donors. First of all, people like me, who are now going to be taxed more by Washington, not because of the millionaire tax, but because it's an income tax, and it's going to apply to all of us. If we have to keep more of our money for ourselves to pay our taxes, it doesn't go to philanthropic causes, which means my synagogues, my kids' schools, all that kind of stuff is going to take a massive hit. And that's going to happen with everybody else as well. Joe's 100% right. He's saying it in his own way because he likes airplanes. But whatever your pet cause is, that thing is going to take a hit because people have less money. You're 100% right, Joe.
Yes. Yes, and I just want to also call in, and I can't believe I'm doing this. Note the date and time. Thank you, Brian Haywood, for the initiative, and thank you to Sir Rob McKenna for suing this unconstitutional kidney stone Ferguson, attack. I call him kidney stone because it hurts more than I had a kidney stone last week.
Oh, you're saying it's more painful than just average day-to-day what you do in the men's room, right?
Yes.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. Well, Transit Joe, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Appreciate you joining the fight. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, how Katie Wilson is doubling down on the same dumb stupidity that Governor Turd Ferguson just passed for the entire state. Plus, how her own supporters have turned against her. Tell you all about it. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You would think that after seeing the huge backlash to what Turd Ferguson did by signing the income tax, that other politicians would be wary. They'd be wary, but you know who's not? Katie Wilson. One, she's not very smart, but two, she goes, that's a brilliant idea. I should do the same thing. Because if she had an original idea in her head, it would die of loneliness. Instead, she has to copy everybody else's work. So Washington copies California, and Katie Wilson just copies the Democrats in Olympia. Plus, she figures, I'm only a couple months into this. I don't have to run for re-election for 3 years. Lots of time for people to forget what I did. Well, now, according to Center Square, she is considering, wait for it, here's her brilliant new idea. Tell me if you've heard this one before. New taxes on large businesses and wealthy individuals. Are there any left in Seattle? Hang on a second. Kevin, you've lived here a lot longer than I have, right? Do the rich people typically live in Seattle? Don't they live in Medina and Bellevue and out there, other places? Usually out there somewhere?
Yeah, there's certain areas that that seem to attract the rich. But
yes.
I'd have to say, just to live in Seattle proper anymore, you got to be pretty darn rich.
Yes, I would agree. Or you got here so many years ago, you own your house already, like 22 years ago, say. So I would say, is that who are you going to go after? What companies? You have a 33% office vacancy rate in downtown Seattle. Amazon, gone. Starbucks, leaving. Microsoft, not here. Who are you coming after? Or is this a way of virtue signaling? Because she's going to say, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm taxing them for their fair share? Well, Katie Wilson's got another problem. So last week, we told you the story about how Katie Wilson said she wasn't going to expand the surveillance cameras that we have, but she wasn't going to stop using them either, thinking she was going to split the baby, right? And that would be the best way forward. Oh, well, if I just tell the activists or her friends that I'm not going to add more cameras, but I say that I'm going to keep the cameras running, Donald Trump won't take the World Cup away from me. Because here's what's going on. Richland got rid of their cameras. Crime went up by 62%. So Katie Wilson knows if you tell the criminals we're turning off our cameras, what happens then? Crime goes up. And then Donald Trump comes along and he goes, you know, Seattle, I don't know what happened in Seattle. It used to be the greatest place. So beautiful, and the socialists destroyed it. So we're taking the World Cup and we're taking it out of there, and we're going to put it on the front lawn of the White House. That's what's going to happen. So what happened was she had a community meeting on Friday night, which was about surveillance, and her own supporters showed up to protest her. They were inside, they were outside. I don't even think they know what they're doing. Some of them are wrapped in keffiyehs. Some of them are wrapped in LGBTQ stuff. Anyway, and this video here, which I think was taken by Hannah Krieg, the far-left Looney Tune who's in favor of these taxes. Here's what it said.
Hi, my name is Sochi. I worked on Katie's campaign and oversaw the 50,000 door effort that got her elected. And so I have a couple questions. Nicola reported that you knew that Chief Barnes was on the advisory committee for the NYU policing project. So how can the public have trust in this audit with a very clear conflict of interest?
All right, stop right there for a second. Chief Barnes, Chief Wiggum, who is probably one of the wokest police chiefs in the U.S., you think he's too strict on security for you? The guy who ordered the police department to go target ICE agents? That guy? Okay. You can never make the far left happy enough. You can never be far left enough for the far left.
And was there any competitive procurement for that contractor? And I will also say, I think you're splitting hairs by saying this wasn't part of your platform, because I think me and the 1,355 people who signed a letter to you would have said that, yes, being against surveillance was on your platform. Also lastly, on April 10th, we're going to hold a rally at City Hall at 12 p.m. Hopefully we'll be celebrating you realigning with the platform that got you elected and got all these people to support you, or otherwise it'll be a moment for accountability. Okay, so you asked a question.
Whoa. Are you threatening me? Hang on, can we do that last part again? Hang on one second here. Let's just listen to that last part again.
Your platform. Also lastly, on April 10th, we're going to hold a rally at City Hall.
Oh, April 10th. Miss my birthday by 2 days. Early birthday present. Early birthday present. Watching a whole bunch of people come out to protest Katie Wilson. Because here's what whoever is running Katie Wilson's office knows. They know they just got to get through the World Cup. Then they can do all the crazy they want. Because then the eyes of the world are not on Seattle anymore. All we got to do is get through the World Cup. So we'll keep the cameras on through the World Cup, and then we'll be okay. Right? Nope, not these activists. No, no, no. Oh, man. You know what I think we should do? I think we should have a protest at City Hall. I think we should go join the activists and just say we want Katie Wilson gone. Not for the same reasons. You say, we are allies. We are here as your allies. Find strength in allyship. We are here to affirm you. What do you think? Good idea, bad idea? I mean, they're not going to be happy I'm down there. I'm going to say, this is great. I love this. Down with Katie Wilson. You know, do you think at this point it's intentional? I really wonder. Bob Ferguson's not stupid. Katie Wilson's very stupid. But do you think whoever's running these people is just saying, how can we destroy these meccas of wealth in the U.S.? How can we destroy these great American cities? Do you know that Zoran Mamdani is the first mayor in New York City history to have 3 bond rating agencies put New York City on a negative outlook in the first 100 days? Moody's, Fitch, KBRA, they're all doing it. Do you think this is just the plan? Well, if we make America so bad, they'll have to go communist. Really? I mean, that kind of seems like what their plan is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up?
You know, I've got a comment about this. And you mentioned something about the idea of Kidney Stone Ferguson signing that bill regarding the tax for millionaires and billionaires. You want to make a bet that some of these people are going to end up moving, and they can take their 206-425-36 or whatever area code cell phone numbers and have them in cities like Los Angeles, Miami, Boston, Stockton, where I was born in, and other cities in the U.S., because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I don't think they're going to go to L.A. I don't think that's going to happen, Leonard, if they're escaping here. And I'm not sure they're going to go to Boston, but Miami? Yeah, I bet you they will. I bet you they'll go to Texas. I bet you they'll go to a lot of other places. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, the California gubernatorial debate was canceled because apparently they're all a bunch of racists, but they're all Democrats. I'm confused. What is the left exactly mad about? We'll tell you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. All right, this video cracked me up. You're going to love it. The 2026 New Democratic Party Leadership Convention in Canada featured a series of tense and awkward moments over the weekend, according to the Post-Millennial, including disputes over American politics and points of privilege. Held from March 27th to 29th in Winnipeg, the convention brought together party members to select the next federal leader. But several incidents during the gathering drew attention, at times disrupted the proceedings. Now, this one woman, who is a person of color, who identifies as whatever they identify as, but is wrapped in a Hamas keffiyeh, gets up to address the delegation. Now, you got to suffer through her ranting about crazy to get to the fun part of this. Because when she addresses the chair, who identifies as non-binary, that's the fun, okay? Go with me on this for a second. You got to suffer through the crazy. It's worth it at the end. Here we go.
Microphone 2, are you on this resolution?
Yes.
Microphone 2, please.
My name is Mastura Tasneem. My pronouns are she, they. I'm from Ontario. Hello, bonjour. As we conduct this convention today and the past 2 days, right now there's discussions of 10,000 American men and women being sent to Iran, being deployed, just to be part of this bloodbath. Canada cannot and will not be part of the legacy of blood that was built in Iraq, in Palestine, and now in Iran. This is a no-question debate. I call this question, Madam and Chairs. Thank you.
Your point's quite well made, Speaker. I'll again thank delegates not to call me Madam Chair or Madame la Présidente. I'm a non-binary person. My pronouns are they, them, and their. Chair is sufficient.
Okay, hang on. This person just spewed out all your nonsense while wrapped in a keffiyeh, but you're mad they misgendered you? Okay, look, lady, you're not fooling anybody with however you identify, just saying that. You're a gal. I'm sorry about where you ended up in the gene tree, but you know what? You're a lady. Okay, you can call yourself non-binary all you want, but do you not? Is this the fight you? Well, I guess in this room, this is the fight you want to pick, right? She's a white lady, the chair, so she needs to check a box. So you get a short haircut and identify as non-binary, and that's it.
Does anything get done in these? I mean,
no.
You'd have to think between all of the virtue signaling
Yes.
and keeping things woke and all this stuff, that by the time you get done with all of that, how much of it is actually talking about meat and potato stuff?
Well, hang on. Let's go back. What did she talk about? What was she talking about? She's talking about America being involved in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
This was the 2026 New Democratic Party of Canada. Okay, you know what? Let's say the New Democratic Party of Canada wins the election, sweeps all the seats, gets the entire parliament. Are they going to go to war with America over Iran? And you know what? I think we got a good chance against the New Democratic Party of the non-binary people who don't know which bathroom to use. You know what? This is what we're going to do. We're just going to go in there, and we're going to put up a sign that says men's room and women's room in their military bases. And they're going to spend all the time arguing. You know what we're going to do? Kevin, we're going to make this better. We're going to hang up a Canadian flag on the base and watch how they lose their minds that there's not an LGBTQIA flag on the base. What other things can we do to just set them completely off? Oh, wait, we could have a buffet. We'll have a buffet of like a keffiyeh and Antifa kind of gear. And then the groups that got excluded, whose gear isn't on the table, are going to say they didn't get represented. They're never going to leave the base. They're never going to leave. I like our chances. I think this is the way to. Does anything get done? Nothing gets done at these things.
Not like anybody would want them to get anything done.
No.
But I love that they're hamstringing themselves like on nonsense.
Yes. You know, it's funny. So in the last segment, we talked about Katie Wilson getting protested, where the protesters might show up at City Hall. So hang on a second. You guys are going to show up for somebody who supports 99% of your agenda and is probably going to support 100% of your agenda through the World Cup. But it's just doing the cameras in the short term, so you don't lose the soccer, which for some reason every lefty I know loves soccer. I don't know if that's a European nonsense or whatever. Okay, you're going to show up and protest her. So you know what happens then? Her people go, well, if the left doesn't like us, who do we go to for support? Now, I don't think they're going to go to the conservatives. I don't think any conservative would support Katie Wilson. But you know what they'll do? They'll go to the Downtown Seattle Association, who are a bunch of suckers, and they'll say, yeah, you know, we've tried to make nice with her, and they'll dangle a little carrot. Like, hey, if you do this, she might do this. Oh, please, yes, Katie Wilson. By the way, we've got these problems here at home, too. So the California gubernatorial debate was canceled last week because they claimed it was racist. Here's why. Every time you have a debate in politics, they usually have qualifications. You have to raise a certain amount of money, or you have to be polling at a certain amount, or you need both, or you need one or the other. Well, apparently everybody who qualified is white. So now they're saying, well, because only the white people qualified and there's no diversity in the debate, we're canceling the whole debate. Why don't you just make your candidates better? But instead, you're causing a whole fight over this because this is one person who's saying you're excluding me because I'm a person of color. No, they're excluding you because you're polling at not even 1% and you've barely raised any money, and therefore you're not a viable candidate. And they say if we put up every candidate, what did California have last time? 50 people running for office? That's going to be a really long debate, and I don't think anybody's going to watch it. But this is the nonsense they get bogged down by. Yes, racism in the California gubernatorial debate. That's what it is. Not the fact that you didn't qualify because you didn't have enough people polling for you. Not because you didn't raise enough money, but because everybody's a whole bunch of racists. For those of you who think Donald Trump killed woke and woke went away, woke ain't going anywhere. It took a temporary, not even a hiatus. It was like a turtle. The shell's still there, but the head kind of went inside for a second, so it didn't get lopped off by Donald Trump. The woke didn't go anywhere. And you know what happens in the midterms? If the Democrats win, it comes roaring back with the fire of 1,000 suns, this woke insanity. Guaranteed. What, you think the schools got rid of it? You think the colleges got rid of it? I guarantee you it is all still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. So frustrating. People don't see the long term about this. One election doesn't end it. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, including fraud was revealed in Washington daycares. Wait, I thought we were racist if we said there was fraud. Tell you what's going on up next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the new light rail is open, and they had a No Kings protest the same day. What insanity did you miss because you have a life and a job and children? But before we get to any of that, my friends, somebody texted me in the last hour, and they said, this is from the 206, they said, Ari, is the 4 p.m. contest word going to be bummer? Because they were talking about, I was talking at the time about the income tax. No, the word is not going to be bummer. But my friends, right now you get the chance to win $2,000 in cold, hard cash, so you can pay your bills, my friends. I'd like to thank our in-house Pink Floyd cover band for showing up, coming back to the show. We haven't seen you guys in a while, to give us the right mood music for this. So here's what you do. You text the keyword I give you to the number I give you. Only the keyword, not your name, not your number, not your address, no other details, just the keyword. Text it to the number I give you and only text it once. And you'll be entered for a chance to win money. That's right. You will have a chance to win $2,000 cash. Today's keyword is gain, G-A-I-N, as in, if we give you money, you gain it for your bank account. G-A-I-N. Text the word gain, G-A-I-N, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Good luck, everybody, and I really want to thank our in-house Pink Floyd cover band for coming back. We've really, really missed you guys. As much as we enjoyed that Destiny's Child had a reunion every single day right here on the show, to be here for us, I think I prefer the Pink Floyd one a lot better than the Destiny's Child one. That's just a personal preference.
And that's a lot coming from you since you're not a big fan of Roger.
Oh, he's gone.
Waters.
He's out. Dude's gone. They kicked him out of the band.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
Very much involved with that song.
Yeah, I know. That's basically his song. That and The Wall are basically all him, right? Pretty sure. Okay, it's fine. I will take the Pink Floyd cover band because it is not the Destiny's Child. Moving on, though, my friends. So, this one is entertaining to me. Do you remember how, back in December, if you suggested, just the tiniest little bit, gave a little itty-bitty suggestion that there was fraud in Washington State, you were a racist. You were a white supremacist. How dare you? Well, I got this fun little press release today from the Washington State Auditor. Hang on. So far, what have we gotten from the Washington State Auditor? $500 million were uncontrolled, and that's bad. We're going to fix that. And then another few $1 million, that was overspent, but no fraud. You got to listen to how this thing is written. We're going to analyze it along the way for you. State audit shows overall improvement, recommends increased oversight of child care payments. Whoa! Wait a minute. Hang on. You show overall improvement, but you recommend increased oversight of child care payments? So what's the improvement then? Okay, bear with me. We're going to get to the good part. Ready? Today, the Office of the Washington State Auditor released its massive annual audit of federal funds, which reviewed $23.7 billion in federal funds across 28 programs. Auditors found a general pattern of improved compliance with federal requirements overall. SAO also determined that the state system to detect improper payments and child care subsidies has weaknesses that contributed to an estimated $37 million in questionable payments in 2025. Stop. Full stop. Can we just stop there for a second? Wait. You're telling me $37 million of federal money were questionable payments. Do you see how politely they're writing this? Do you see how they're writing it to be like, they tried their best, but it's just questionable. I mean, it's not fraudulent. We're just going to call it questionable. You guys did a good job overall, but you lost $37 million. Kevin, if I lost I don't know, let's say a machine that you guys gave me to go like the tie line machine, which I used to broadcast remotely. If I lost that $10,000 piece of equipment, right, I assume it wouldn't just be, well, you know, you tried your best, Ari. You tried your best, right, Kevin? I assume it would be a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I've been here a long time and a lot of equipment goes missing. So you'd think so, but sometimes it's just like, I don't know where that went.
This one's kind of big, though. No
Did
more
Ari
remote
have it
broadcasts.
last? I don't
Yeah, I don't know where that.
Yeah,
We're not talking about equipment from the old building, right? Which is like, oh, we're just leaving this behind when we move. No, talking about like a serious piece of equipment.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Okay, so just so everybody knows how I travel with this thing, because I'm so careful with it, I don't check it. I take that sucker with me on the plane, and I put a buzzer in my phone for when I land to remind me it's in the overhead bin, because I'm so paranoid about this thing. This thing looks like it's in a case meant for a gun. So anywhere I go, they're like, is that a gun? I'm like, no, it's a radio thing. Show us. And then I get pulled out of the line. I have to go through the whole thing. That's how I take care of a $10,000 piece of equipment. It's $10,000, right? That thing?
I have no idea. If not, it's still
it's expensive.
It's an expensive piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Carlson's probably got 3 in his closet he doesn't know about right now.
That are just sitting there
from the many years of.
Okay, so maybe this is a bad example.
I'm kidding.
Maybe
Yeah,
this is
no.
a bad example. I wouldn't be fired, but sure. Okay, like it would not be. Oh well, you tried your best, Ari. In fact, you know what'd be worse than probably getting fired? You guys ragging on me for the rest of time, going, well, not all of us can leave the thing in the overhead bin on Alaska Airlines. You know, some Somali tarmac worker probably has a tie line and can call into the show right now, and he's running his own show talking about how to defraud the government. Thanks to you, Ari. Good job, man. Right? Something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. Okay. So, $37 million in questionable payment. Earlier this year, the state attorney's office, the state accounting office, audit office, received inquiries from lawmakers, the media, and the public about the potential for fraud in subsidized child care inspired by concerns in other states. Quote, for months we told anyone who asked about child care subsidies that we were auditing the program and would publicly share what we found, said State Auditor Pat McCarthy. Today, we can say the state should take additional steps to detect and prevent improper payments. By doing so, the state can preserve more child care funding for the working families and providers who depend on that support. Full stop. This is what we've been saying the whole time. Aside from the fact that it's waste, fraud, and abuse, who's it supposed to be going to that now you guys don't have the money for? Because some Somali guy took the money and then went and bought a Corvette with it or a Mercedes with it or anything else. The office has not been able to audit the state's use of the Federal Child Care Development Fund since the fiscal year 2021. Hang on a second. You guys haven't audited this thing in 5 years? So $37 million is just the tip of the iceberg. $37 million is what you found from the stuff you could audit just last year. You have no idea how much fraud could be, okay, sorry, they didn't use the word fraud, how much overpayments could be out there. You have no idea. Due to the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, that's the one that pays for all the allegedly overpayments that we've had, making fewer accounting adjustments in fiscal year 2025 than it had in past years. Auditors were able to trace individual payments to child care providers to their funding source. Auditors reviewed records from statistically valid sample of subsidized child care providers. Among the issues they found, okay, stop for a second. Let me clarify this. They couldn't get the records from their own state agency, but through certain payments were able to hunt down some of these. You're telling me the Washington State Auditor's Office is doing the same thing the people from Doge, Washington have to do because they can't get the information from their own agency? So what you're telling me is, did you guys go to the Washington State checkbook like we did and just go, I wonder where the money went? Tap, 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 tap. That doesn't look like a daycare. You're telling me the Washington State Auditor was basically doing what we've been doing since December? Holy cow. Holy cow. Here's what they found. Some providers did not respond to auditor requests for attendance records. Well, that should be an automatic cut it off, right? I mean, Kevin, if I don't give you my receipts for one of our trips, like to the RNC or something like that, I'm not going to get reimbursed, right? That's how it works.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No, I know, because I think I spent $40 in some cables for the State of the Union, and I don't know where that receipt went.
Don't know what happened to that. Yeah, you
that
can't run
$40
again.
is gone.
Okay, so that's $40.
You
You can write it off if it was on your credit card. You're good. It's okay. It's a business expense. You're fine. So wait a second. You're telling me they continued paying these guys even though they didn't have the receipts for any of this? The attendance records for any of it? Wait. Hang on. If I say this, I'm racist. I'm a huge racist. Nick Brown, Washington Attorney General Nick Brown said, I'm a huge racist if I point this out.
You just talked about transparency and accountability, and you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago about DCYF and the allegations that have swirled around that agency. Since you and I talked, there's been an audit to suggest there were $500 million in 2 programs that did not have adequate controls, that there's been $2 million in overpayments to providers, and that the state auditor went 4 years without any sort of provider records. Given that information now, would you call for an outside audit of DCYF?
Well, my understanding from what the auditors talked about both in the past and I think as recently as today, that there's continuing audits that the auditor's office is going to do. Our job is to make sure that our clients that we represent, DCYF and other state agencies, are taking those audits very seriously and do everything they can to make sure that they're not going to have that kind of problems moving forward. I do want to distinguish what we've seen and heard about. There's, every state government, every state program that gets taxpayer dollars needs to work better with those dollars and make sure that we're treating those issues seriously. That is very different in my mind from allegations of fraud, and we want to make sure that there's a distinction between allegations of criminal fraud and allegations of just how we best use our taxpayer dollars. So I will let the auditors speak for themselves. I think it's really important, and one of the things that makes Washington State great is that we have an independent auditor that can do that work on behalf of the public. They issue very transparent and thorough reports on many, many state agencies, and I think that work needs to continue, and it's really important that the state agency leads, the governor's office, and the rest of us take those audits very seriously.
Have you had any fraud complaints come into your office?
Sorry, say it again.
Have you had any fraud complaints come into your office?
Fraud complaints related to what?
Related to DCYF.
Oh, sure. I mean, we all watch the news, right? There's been a lot of reports on fraud that came into our office. Most of them are what I would view as pretty baseless allegations, but we take those allegations seriously. We work with our client agencies. We get a lot of intake in our office via email and calls alike. So there's been dozens of allegations made, and it's really important that we work with our clients to look at those and treat them seriously.
So are you going to investigate any of this? Any of it at all? Are you going to investigate any of it? Well, it's not just the attendance records. Come on, Ari. Some teachers forget to take attendance. They don't take attendance in college. They still get federal funds. Okay. Overbilled for services not supported by attendance records. So what you're saying is you overbilled and there may not have been a single student in the classroom. That's what we're talking about here. Did not provide the required signatures from parents or guardians. You mean there may have been no kids actually enrolled in your schools? Oh, but we're just being a bunch of racists for calling that out, right, Nick Brown?
But I was really concerned was about the level of harassment, sort of random vigilante people just showing up on people's doorsteps. Like, that would make all of us scared. And some of the rhetoric around it, frankly, is racist, and sort of the hate that we've seen generated around that, and that's an area of concern for me as well. And so I think we need to investigate things that are happening. We need to hold people accountable. We need to also tamper down some of these harassing allegations and see if that's something that we need to look into as well.
So by my math, the Washington State Auditor now admits that at least $550 million, if not $600 million, is unaccounted for, is uncontrolled, is overbilled. Okay, that's what they admit that they found. But notice all the glaring gaps that are in the rest of this. Based on the sample results, auditors estimate DCYF made a total of $27.2 million in questionable payments with federal child care development funds. The same issues resulted in finding related to the Temporary Assistance Needy Families Program and $9.9 million in questionable payments made to the child care providers of those federal funds. Holy cow. Now you're talking about, let me do some quick math here. 27 plus 37 is 64 million. Plus 9.9 million, you're looking at about, let's do some quick thing here. You're looking at about $73.9 million on top of the $500 million from before. You're almost at the $600 million. Right there. $600 million. The audit found the department's program to detect overpayments needs improvement. Oh, you think? 2/3 of the department audits identified overpayments. 2/3. Nearly a quarter of the payments audited were identified as overpayments, amounting to another $2.2 million. Those overpayments were submitted in a separate state office for collections where providers can contest the department's findings. Hey, wouldn't it be nice if we had an attorney general who didn't think this was racism and actually thought it was worth investigating? Maybe. Somebody? Maybe. I got this earlier today. I had a bit of a day with Bob Ferguson signing the income tax. I didn't get a chance to talk to my friends over at the White House yet. Who do you think I'm going to email this to as soon as the show is over today? Hey, Harmeet Dillon, I know you've been on the show like 3 or 4 times. Can you tell Pam Bondi, who I haven't spoken to yet, would you mind passing this along to her? Or maybe better yet, didn't the vice president just announce he was starting a new task force that was going to investigate fraud? Didn't Scott Bessent just announce this new task force? Let's make an example out of Washington. I'm just going to forward this on. Just forward this on. I'm not even going to send the stuff that me, Jonathan Cho, Cam Higbee, Kristen Mag, any of that. I'm not going to send any of that. I'm just going to send their own audit. That's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to get some popcorn. I'm going to get a lot of popcorn. I'm just going to sit back like the dude in the memes. Michael Jackson, whichever dude it is, the Wayans brother, I'm just going to sit back like the dude in the memes. All the popcorn. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Mike in Kent. Mike, what's going on?
Well, hey, I was just recalling as you were talking about, how poorly performed, the Washington State did in this audit, losing track of, 37 million. It recalled to mind the big scandal during the COVID period of the Employment Security Department. And there was a much, much bigger number, like in the hundreds of millions of dollars that were being paid out to foreign nationals.
Oh, Mike, I have to correct you, sir. You are not correct with that, don't you know? It was over $1 billion that was paid out to Nigerian fraudsters because Jay Inslee opened an email from a Nigerian prince that said you may be able to inherit all this money.
Okay, I laughingly stand corrected. Thank you.
It was over $1 billion. And do you remember who was in charge of clawing that money back, getting that money back? Do you remember?
Well, I think, wasn't it a Kamala Harris lookalike that was being fingered by the Biden administration to go up to a high-level cabinet position or something?
You're so close, but actually it was Bob Ferguson. Bob Ferguson was in charge of that here. So no, you're right. They were working together. You're half right. Okay, so I just wanted to do that. I just like the joke. But yeah, This was literally all the fraud. You're 100% right. They lost $1 billion to Nigerian scammers. How much did they lose to Somali scammers? We don't know the total, but Mike, just from what we know from the Washington State Auditor, you're looking at least $600 million that they're admitting to. If they'll admit to $600 million, let's do an under-over. Here we go, Mike. You're going to be my first contestant, okay?
Okay.
No prizes giving away for this at all, or I get in trouble with the FCC, okay? But here we go, just for bragging rights. What do you think the total number of fraud in Washington State is? And I'll give you some information. In Minnesota, we know it's around $9 billion, probably more, but the number they're admitting to is $9 billion. What do you think it is here in Washington State?
Oh, I don't know. I'm guessing because we're pretty liberal out here, and I think. I'm guessing it's probably. I'm going to say double that. I'm going to say 18 billion.
18 billion. Okay, here's going to be my benchmark. Okay, my guess is going to be $20 billion. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, you have your number. When we find out that number one day, I want you to call back and I want you to tell me who wins. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Mike, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from my good friend, Alma. Alma, my darling, I haven't heard from you in weeks. How are you?
I'm fine, sweetheart. How are you doing?
I am just peachy. The sun is shining, and my good friend Alma called me. My day does not get better than this, even when you disagree with me.
Why don't Pam Bundy find the Epstein files? That's what you get.
Hang on, Alma. Alma, you're calling about the Epstein.
That's why she's corrupt.
Hang on, Alma. Alma, you know I love you, but we got all this fraud we just found here in Washington. Do you think we should investigate that?
Yeah, the president. All the things he's done, that's the biggest thing. This is small bits of something. That's what the president and Pam Bondi talking about the papers was all there. She can't find them.
Wait, hang on.
She said,
hang on, Alma. If you lost $500 million, do you think that should be investigated?
Yes, by all means it should be investigated. But Pam Bundy needs to investigate the right things first. First things first. She acts like she done forgot about that. And then another thing, or she said we shouldn't have nationalized citizenship.
Wait a second. Hang on. One thing at a time. One thing at a time, Alma. One thing at a time. Okay, can you do me a favor? Do you use the internet at all?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you go on the Justice Department website, look up all the Epstein files that are there, and tell me what we're missing? I'm not joking. If you say here, I really want this stuff that's not here, tell me what we're missing. I'll call somebody at the White House and tell them.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask you this? Would you want a president that has done the things that this president accused of doing, and he almost admitted he paid money, and you could still look up to him? Or you want a president who says something about, he could talk about anything, even sex? Come on now.
Hang on, Alma. Can we be level-headed about this? Let's say everything they said was true. Let's say everything they said was true. Okay? Thank you, Alma. Let's say everything they said is true. Then, do you think everything in the Epstein files is accurate?
No, well, everything is not based on a truth. Some things are false. But it's been proven Trump wouldn't have paid that money off for nothing, my friend.
So hang on a second, Alma. Do you think we should investigate Bill Clinton?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If he's wrong, I'm fair.
Okay.
If he did wrong, if you know I love Obama. If Obama did wrong, investigate him. I'm a fair person.
Okay, so here we go. Alma, you and I love this. We have found a common ground. If there's wrong done, we should investigate it. Thank you, Alma. You just put a smile on my face on a rough day. What a wonderful call. Thank you for being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, the light rail. And its grand reopening for this big crossing across the bridge. They're going to open this new station for the bridge. I think when we come back, we'll do an under-over bet about how long until it first breaks down. Maybe we'll do that, but also tell you how the Democrats who are running this event completely ignored the fact that there's a massive homeless encampment next to the actual station. Tell you all about it up next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. A lot of you have been emailing me, texting me, calling us about the podcast. Normally, this is the part of the show where I go, hey, subscribe to our podcast. Well, I don't know if it's shadow banning. I don't know if something else is going on. Our podcasts are not being accepted or updating on Spotify and Apple. I don't know what's going on. This is very, very odd. We have people who are working on it, trying to get a hold of their customer service is challenging. In the meantime, remember, you can always get the Ari Hoffman Show on the KVI app and at kvi.com. For the time being, head on over there if you're having problems with Apple or Spotify. But I think this really does make us the most dangerous show on the airwaves because they're afraid to even put the podcast up. We'll see what's going on. We'll keep you updated about that. On Saturday, they had the grand opening for the new light rail that's going to be crossing Lake Washington. In fact, it's running today. Beautiful day. Looked like a beautiful view. But we know the light rail around here. How long do you think it's going to be until it's out of service? Copper wire theft, protesters, you name it. How long do you think it's going to be? We'll do another under-over bet. My guess is 2 to 3 weeks. I think within 2 to 3 weeks, there's going to be some problem. And you know what? New infrastructure issues have that. You remember when they first dug the tunnel, it started leaking, and they had to shut down the whole tunnel while they figured out what the leak was? These are things that happen. But what was more entertaining, it doesn't really translate well to audio. Our friend Andrea Suarez from We Heart Seattle was out there videoing everybody, this long line of people, as they're getting on the light rail. They're getting on at Judkins Park, which is the stop that's right before the I-90 bridge. That's where they're getting on. As a person who coached baseball for years at Judkins Park, I can tell you that it's, I will just say colorful. And by colorful, I mean there's a lot of orange-tipped needles there on the ground of Judkins Park. Not the nicest area. But also there's something else that's over there. And Kevin will recognize this. That station is the overhang on I-90 where all the concrete and bricks and everything come flying off from the homeless encampment that's up there every single spring and summer. Whenever we talk about rock throwing season, that is literally the spot for it. So when I see Andrea Suarez out there, I know why Andrea Suarez is out there. She ain't out there for transit. What's Andrea Suarez doing from We Heart Seattle? She's talking to homeless people. She's offering them services, trying to help them out. What I find funny is you have this line of people, and I assume most of the people who want to go on the train are people who like transit. Look, if I was available, and I probably would have gone down there and be like, hey, let's see the opening. I wouldn't have waited in line for an hour. I would have gone down.
Transit Joe was probably sitting there in line.
Transit Joe couldn't go.
Oh,
Transit Joe was. You missed this last week when you were traversing the world. So what happened was Transit Joe was worried there were going to be protests because they had the No Kings stuff. So I told Transit Joe I would go on the train with him one day because I felt so bad for him about that because that's like his life. So I did feel very bad. I did say that. So now I got to find a date with Transit Joe to go on the light rail from the Judkins Park station so I could take my life in my hands as I go over there.
You going to bring a couple of rocks with you?
Well, I don't want to be, I can't bring the other thing with me because it's transit. And you're not allowed to, I might have to bring some rocks. What about a sharp object? Am I allowed to bring those? I know I can't bring the ones that have gunpowder. So what other things can I bring? I'm going to have to do some research. This is why I don't go on light rail. Anywho, Andrea Suarez is there, and she's taking video. And you see Bob Ferguson walking by and see all these other muckety-mucks walking by. And behind them is the homeless encampment. So here's our nice new shiny train, homeless encampment. Wow. Well, wait a second. Hang on. This is even better. You think Seattle's going to station cops there to keep people off the light? Nope. You think King County is going to station people to keep them off the light rail? Nope, not going to happen. So here's what's going to happen. We know that Bellevue has a specialty unit assigned to their platforms. I assume Mercer Island does too. The Mercer Island people probably do. They just probably haven't made a video about it. Because Mercer Island cops, they got nothing to do all day.
I heard that CBS is working on a show at night based on the true stories of the Bellevue transit cops.
Yeah. Bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for? Yeah.
What is it like? CSI Seattle? What it would be like? What is the acronym?
Well,
for
you do cops, but you got to do something like
you're going the
transit cops. That's what I want.
You're going the reality route.
Yeah.
I was gonna go like here's a new.
Who's dating who in the transit police kind of thing?
No. Like, you got CSI Miami, CSI Vegas, We can have a new genre that is just transit cops. You know,
I got you. What crimes are we going to solve? The man with the hatchet. The man who pushed an elderly woman down the steps. This week's special episode, it was an illegal alien who tried to shove that dude in front of that train that time. Right? That's what it'll be.
Yeah, or hey, this is one of the trains that doesn't have the vinyl seats. Oh, someone dutying on a seat again.
Oh, no. Or you know what it'll be? It was a vinyl seat, and they cleaned up all the evidence. We need to bring in the real crime team to find out who's behind this.
Let's get a black light on a train compartment. Oh, Lord.
Oh, no. Looks like a Jackson Pollock painting. Oh, dear. Oh, yes, that's exactly what it's going to be like. But, yeah, we know. Congratulations, Seattle. You're going to export your homeless problem one person at a time, just not to Bellevue. End up in Redmond or somewhere else. Up next, my friends, the lawsuits are already beginning against the income tax. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, Jackson Maynard, thanks so much for being with us today.
Great to talk to you, Ari, and great to be on your show. Thank you.
Great to have you back, man. So let's start at the beginning. What are the legal grounds for challenging this? A lot of people take for granted that the income tax is unconstitutional, but I think a lot of people don't really understand why it's unconstitutional.
Yeah, we retained former Attorney General Rob McKenna, who's a pretty smart attorney and very well versed in state constitutional issues, to file a lawsuit on this in just a few days. So we're ready to move forward. And the grounds for it are laid out in his memo, which he provided to the legislature and the governor during session, which unfortunately they ignored. And it's that there is an article of the state constitution that requires that any property tax be applied both uniformly to everybody and that it also be capped at 1%. And those are really clear provisions. And the definition of property in that is very, very broad. It's anything tangible or intangible. So for the last 100 years, the state Supreme Court has had precedent and upheld it because the legislature has tried many, many times to challenge this. And they have consistently held that, yep, income is property, and therefore it should not be, it is subject to this constitutional provision. And the problem with the bill the governor signed is it does not tax uniformly, and it taxes greater than 1%. So it should be struck down.
So then just playing devil's advocate for a second here, Jamie Peterson, the Senate Majority Leader, was doing this rambling, incoherent nonsense where he was talking about your property not being your property, comparing it to illegal aliens. It didn't make any sense what he was saying, but do they almost want this legal challenge so then they can overturn the precedent of 100 years of your property being your property, whether tangible or intangible?
Yeah, I was frankly kind of confused by what Senator Peterson said in that press availability. I just didn't understand his argument. And I think what's really interesting, Ari, is that just a couple of years ago, and Rob points this out in his memo, the state Supreme Court had a chance to overturn the 100 years of precedent and do what the other side wants and say, oh, no, income's not property. Because they had a chance to do that on the capital gains tax, and a majority of the court did not do that. They didn't accept that invitation, and basically upheld that prior precedent and said, look, that tax is an excise tax, it's not an income tax. So they kind of said it didn't apply, but they also did not overturn it. So this is still good law. It was reviewed by the court just a couple of years ago. And what's also interesting is the majority of the court is on the ballot this year, so the voters will have a chance to weigh in on the composition of the court. But the bottom line here is that, whatever arguments the opponents want to make as to why this income tax should be constitutional, it flies in the face of that 100 years of precedent and all of the arguments that have been made, and we anticipate we're going to prevail.
We're talking with Jackson Maynard, who is from the Citizen Action Defense Fund, and we're discussing Governor Bob Ferguson's new income tax. And you mentioned that you have Rob McKenna on board with this. Why is he so passionate about this? We all love Rob McKenna. He's working with you guys on it. He decided to give that opinion to the legislature. He's fighting really hard with everybody. Why is this such a passion project for him?
I think Rob is he's one of the most respected attorneys in the state, frankly, in how he approaches things. He's very deliberate, former attorney general. And so, he's just got the gravitas to take on this kind of issue. And we are, glad that we're working with him on it, that we've retained him. And that I think he sees the importance of it. And it's not just bad law, but it's also bad policy. I mean, you've gotten all of these letters from business owners and tech companies that basically told the governor and the legislature, don't do this. You're giving up our competitive advantage here in the state of not having an income tax. And then there's all the letters from the people that are worried rightly that if this is allowed, it's not just going to be limited to the folks identified in the tax. It's going to be expanded to everybody. And so I think Rob recognizes that, and that's part of why, he's involved in this, and we're honored to have him on our side and fighting with us.
Jackson, you mentioned a few minutes ago about the fact that so many Supreme Court justices here in Washington are up on the ballot this time around. I mean, do you think a lot of them just said, hey, I don't want to even be part of this if they're going to try and do this because I don't want to put my reputation on the line for this nonsense that the Democrats are trying to force through?
It's hard to say what the motivation of different justices are and, the reasons that they have for stepping down. I just think, I think it is encouraging, as I mentioned, that last time, 2 years ago, when the majority of the court looked at this, they did not overturn the prior precedent. I think that's really significant because many of them will be on the bench. And then the fact, too, that, again, the voters will have a chance to weigh in on a majority of the court, which is a rare opportunity. Usually there's only 3 justices per every 2 years that are on the ballot, and most of the time they run unopposed. So there's a real opportunity for voters to have a say in the composition of the court, and so that's a win for democracy as well.
In the last few minutes, we have with Jackson Maynard from the Citizen Action Defense Fund, who are going to be fighting against this unconstitutional income tax that Bob Ferguson just signed into law that the Democrats passed. It's interesting that he didn't put an emergency clause on this sucker. He put something else on it, which I'm new to this and I'm a little unfamiliar with it. What's the difference? Because normally they put an emergency clause on it, but it goes into effect, but this thing doesn't go into effect for a few years. So that would have seemed really ridiculous, and they forced you to do an initiative rather than a referendum. Can you explain this to us?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, and it definitely gets into the weeds, but the state constitution says that there are two, for the purposes of this conversation, kind of two types of laws that are not subject to referendum. One is emergencies, and that kind of makes sense because, if it is a genuine emergency, if there's a fire or a war or something, you want the legislature and the governor to be able to pass a law without it getting bogged down in the courts. Fine. But the other part of it, too, is there's this phrase, in support of public institutions. And the way that's been interpreted over the years is, matters that involve revenue, although, some of the case law isn't super clear. And so, I think you could see a challenge to that particular clause in some of the cases surrounding that. That's not something that CADF is going to be tackling. That'll be left to other folks to take on. But that clause that the legislature tacked on is a little weird. It's not something – they do emergency clauses all the time. A support of public institutions clause is a little unusual, and I think there's a lot of different people looking at that.
Yeah, it was weird. That's why it jumped out at me. Jackson Maynard from the Citizen Action Defense Fund, thank you so much for fighting, not just for me, but for everybody here in Washington to make sure that this unconstitutional income tax doesn't affect all of us. Really do appreciate it.
So glad to do it, Ari. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, there is a technical problem with our podcasts. I don't know if we're being shadow banned. I don't know if we said something that offended somebody in tech overlord world or if it's just a tech problem. But either way, the best way to always get the podcast, if you can't get them on your preferred podcast platform, download the KVI app and, of course, get them on over at kvi.com. Now, I'm giggling a little bit because during the break, our friends over at Peak Seattle sent this over to us. So we had an under-over bet, which we were talking about with the brand new light rail, about how long it was going to be until they had their first technical problem. Hoffman, you're so stupid. It was right there in front of you. You're making fun of the homeless encampment, and you didn't say how long it was going to be until you had your first overdose, or how long it was going to be until you had your first assault or murder or any of that. You know, I completely forgot all these different categories. We should really up our game. According to our friends at Peak Seattle, they found this at the Mercer Island Neighbors Facebook group. Mercer Island had its first overdose at the brand new light rail station last night. Literally last night. Is that more than 24 hours after the thing opened? Literally as soon as the thing opens the next day, you have your first overdose. This one here. It says, man revived with Narcan at Mercer Island Station. Emergency crews respond to a medical incident at the Mercer Island Light Rail Station involving a man who received Narcan. The individual later declined further medical assistance. Can we fill in the gaps here? So a drug addict took the life-saving medication which somebody gave them and then got back on the train and maybe went to Bellevue or maybe stayed on Mercer Island. You know what? I kind of just want to do a sightseeing tour. I want to do a doom loop tour. I think while I'm sightseeing the light rail, because I promised Transit Joe I would go on the light rail with him, I think I want to see the flavor, the color of every station. I think I truly want to experience what the stations are like in Bellevue. According to Peak Seattle, they said, as a friend of mine told me yesterday, and he was at the Bellevue Square station, he said he saw a vagrant on every street corner there. 4 different vagrants, flying signs. He's never seen that before. Get ready, East Side. If you think that blank show at the Plymouth Housing Facility near Bellevue College was going to be the last of it, guess again. Seattle is coming to your doorstep, whether you want it or not. Gets better. Peak Seattle wrote this afterwards. Bonus round. Here's a separate report of a presumably homeless man smoking and sleeping on the floor of a train at Mercer Island. Wow. This is just great. Hang on, let's read the little thing here. I've made contact with the individual that was sleeping on the train. Everything so far copied. Did the individual get up off the floor? Yes, he got up. Now he's sitting in his seat now. Can you stand by for... Oh, wait, here, interrupted. We have reports of an individual smoking. Okay, somebody smoking on the train. I don't think they're smoking pot. I don't think they're smoking a cigarette. I don't think they're smoking a cigar. Mercer Island. You lefties wanted this so bad. All you people out in Bellevue, you figured, those Seattle problems will just stay in Seattle. Really glorious. Well, I wouldn't be doing my job if we didn't give the attention appropriate to the No Kings protest this weekend. So I come back online after the Sabbath, and I go to check my phone, and I say, wait a second, these No Kings protests. Hundreds of thousands of people showed up to march in these No Kings protests. What are they marching for? We still don't have a king. In fact, we haven't had one since 1776. That's so 1775 of you guys. And Donald Trump is still the president of the United States. What did you guys accomplish? I don't know what they're marching for. So I know what they were marching for when they march for the Hamasniks. You know, I know what they're marching for. The No Kings guys, it just seems like a mishmash. So Nick Brown attended this thing, and so did Turd Ferguson, and so did every other Democrat who was home. And he started talking about no kings, no war. So wait a second. You don't want the war that got rid of the Ayatollah, who was a ruthless dictator. You don't want us to go get Maduro, who was a tyrant and killing his own people. You don't want us to do any of that. No kings, but no kings, right? Any of you talking about the women of Iran? Anybody? Anybody at all? Here's what Tim Walz was talking about at his No Queens protest.
And I will add a special thank you and a special acknowledgement that we will never leave the side of our Somali Minnesotans. Here's our pledge to you. Our Somali Minnesotans, your great-grandchildren will still be here when that orange clown is in the dustbin of history. You will be here.
Interesting. Taking the side of the proven fraudsters. Interesting move. Not sure that's going to get you where you think it's going to go, but I guess since you're not running for re-election, you can say whatever dumb stuff you want with no repercussions whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know what they're protesting. I saw the keffiyehs. I saw the anti-war. I saw the what else did I see out there? I saw the anti-Trump. I saw the anti-ICE. It's just how many of these people can we get together? And more reports are coming out of the various organizations and wealthy donors, including many by the Chinese Communist Party, that are out there funding all this. You think this was grassroots? No, my friends. No, it wasn't. Question is, do you think the new No Kings people are having any effect on anyone? It seems like it's just a huge group of elderly white people having group therapy. That's what strikes me as. Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, a faux scandal created by our friends on the right over the weekend. We'll tell you what's going on up next. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free-for-all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, I got new documents from the governor's office about the Sonics, and Starbucks is laying off workers, but not for the reason you think, and I'm kind of happy about it. But before we get to any of that, the biggest faux controversy that never was all over the interwebs yesterday. And then the mainstream media covered it because it was all over the interwebs. And this was actually something that was going on the right, not the left. What are we talking about? A cardinal, a Catholic cardinal, Cardinal Pizzaballa, who is actually the guy who runs the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. He was not allowed to conduct Palm Sunday services by Israeli police. You stopped them from worshiping! The Jews stopped the Christians and the Catholics and everybody from worshiping on Palm Sunday. That's not what happened. I'll tell you exactly what happened. The war has been going on now at this point for about a month. And in that time, a lot of the holy sites, in fact, all of the holy sites in Jerusalem have been closed. Would you like to know why? The old city of Jerusalem, for those of you that have not been there, the entire thing is historical. The entire thing is an archaeological site. The entire thing is hundreds of years old, thousands of years old, depending on which part you're looking at. So you can't start putting bomb shelters in it. You can't start doing what you got to do to protect against that. And it's so tightly woven together in such tight quarters, the ones that do exist, you don't have enough room for a lot of people. So how many people do you think would probably show up to Mass at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre for Palm Sunday? A lot! And you got nowhere to put them. Also, as somebody who's been down there before, it's alleyways and backways. It's not like this big area where people can just go. You're cramming all these different places. So where's everybody going to go in the event of a missile attack? But Ari, why the Catholic location? Why not the Jewish location? Funny you mentioned that. There's a website, and you can double check me in real time right now. The Western Wall camera called Kotel Cam. Kotel means wall, cam means camera. Kotelcam.com. Go over there right now and tell me what you see. For those of you that go over there, do you know what you're going to see? Nobody at the Western Wall. It is a 24-hour-a-day, 24-hour-a-day, 6-day-a-week camera. They shut it off for the Sabbath. So, showing what is going on there at the Kotel, at the Western Wall. There hasn't been anybody there for the month that all this has been going on.
Nobody.
Exactly. Nobody's been there. My son goes to school overlooking it. And I said to him when it first started, I said, so you guys like dancing down there tonight? Because they usually do that on Friday nights. He goes, you kidding me? That thing's been closed for a week. So it's been closed all month. You know what holiday starts this week on Wednesday night? Passover. Normally, this is the time of year where you see thousands, tens of thousands of people at the Western Wall. That's canceled too. In fact, everything is shut down because of the Iranian missile attacks. So, why are we concerned about this? Because Iran, who claims they care so much about Allah and Islam and all that, are launching missiles at the Temple Mount. They're launching missiles at Jerusalem. And a few have actually hit right nearby. For those of you who have been to the area before, there's the Sephardic Center, which is a little higher up than the Kotel. One of the missiles impacted in the parking lot. If you took a bus or a car or anything down to the Western Wall, you went past this parking lot, okay? It's right there. A missile impacted it. Shrapnel from another missile landed on the roof of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. there is good reason for shutting these things down because they can't protect everybody. And also, don't forget this. You don't have the same laws in Israel that you have in America regarding all this. You do have free worship. You can worship whatever religion you want, but security comes first in Israel. So what happens? A whole bunch of our friends on the right, who I would say are Tucker adjacent or Candace adjacent, start making a thing of this. Israeli police shut down the Cardinal on Palm Sunday. Should the police have shut him down when it was just him and a few other people going to do this? You know, I'm sure the situation probably could have been handled more delicately. I'm sure the situation probably could have been worked out a little bit better. But to make this whole big brouhaha about it, that now you've got world leaders weighing in on it being shut down, guys, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Israeli police put up this picture of the officers in question shaking hands with the cardinal and wrote the following a productive meeting between the Israeli police and Latin Catholic cardinal. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because my English is bad enough. A mutual framework has been established for upcoming Easter ceremonies. Due to the complex security reality of Operation Roaring Lion ceremonies, including Holy Fire, will be held in symbolic limited format. This coordination ensures that freedom of worship is maintained alongside our shared primary duty, the protection of human life. In the past few weeks, Iranian missiles and debris have impacted within the Old City. These life-saving restrictions are a direct response to a real and present danger to all worshipers. And they've got the guy shaking hands. They've got the the cardinal, shaking hands with the police officers in question. Okay, this post here only has 4.9 thousand likes, 1.6 thousand retweets. The other ones have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. Rabbi Stephen Berg, old friend of mine from back in the day, wrote the following. The irony is hard to miss. So many world leaders and influencers rushed to attack Israel. Yet how many will now share that Israel quickly worked out a safe solution so worshipers could return? Jerusalem remains one of the only places in the Middle East where Jews, Christians, and Muslims all have freedom to worship. When missiles are literally falling from the sky, safety measures are not oppression, they are a responsibility. The situation was addressed quickly, but that part won't trend. The rush to condemn, the silence when facts emerge say a lot about the world we're living in. And it wasn't the people on the left, it was the people on the right. It was our own side demonizing Israel for this. And it made me nauseous. In fact, I didn't see any of them sharing this little picture here. I saw them all sharing the exaggerated news of what happened, but not sharing this. Why do you think that is? Well, they're Tucker adjacent. Well, they're Candace adjacent, and they wanted there to be a controversy. They wanted there to be a problem. They didn't want to cover it when a solution was actually found. Literally, you could look at that Cotel camera website I told you about right now, and you will see it. And you'll say, oh, it's in the middle of the night over there. There are always people at the Western Wall. Always, 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 always. Other things we're finding out today. Do you remember the lies that were told by the mainstream media that the guy who shot up a synagogue was just upset about his family? Oh, Israel killed his family, and he was just upset about it. The FBI has determined that the vehicle ramming attack earlier this month at Temple, Israel, near Detroit, carried out by Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, was inspired by Hezbollah. Oh, you don't say. Authorities say the incident is being treated as a terrorist attack. Ayman Ghazali recorded a video before the attack where he said he wanted to kill as many of them as I possibly can. As many of them? What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? We assess this attack to be a Hezbollah-inspired act of terrorism, purposely targeting the Jewish community and the largest Jewish temple in Michigan. The FBI defines terrorism as a violent criminal act by an individual who is inspired by or associated with a designated foreign terrorist organization. We do not make this characterization lightly without a thorough review and careful evaluation of the facts. In this case, the evidence shows the attacker was motivated and inspired by Hezbollah's militant ideology. That's according to Jennifer Runyon, who's the head of the FBI in Detroit. Although the assailant's attack, planning, and mobilization of violence began in earnest on March 9th, a review of his online activity since January revealed a recurring search history of pro-Hezbollah news channels, Iranian news channels, and videos about shootouts and bullets. He regularly consumed breaking news statements and live coverage of the current Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, and viewed news coverage of an Iranian fatwa for a total jihad against the U.S. military. Beginning on March 9th, during the early morning hours, the assailants started to view web pages of local synagogues and attempted to purchase a weapon from 2 different individuals. On March 11th, he began uploading images to Facebook album titled Vengeance. The posts included photos of Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader who was killed in a U.S.-Israeli airstrike on February 28th. According to the FBI, he began researching local synagogues on March 9th, searched for phrases such as largest gathering of Israelis in Michigan, Israelis near me, while also attempting to delete his search history. He initially tried to obtain a firearm through private sales before purchasing an AR-style rifle, ammunition, and magazines from a gun store, and later practiced at a shooting range. Investigators say he also bought more than $2,200 worth of fireworks, used approximately 35 gallons of gasoline during the attack, which contributed to the fire that engulfed parts of the synagogue. On the morning of March 12th, he posted images of deceased family members online and sent his sister multiple messages and videos expressing intent to carry out the attack. Authorities say he later drove his truck into the building, struck a security guard, and opened fire before dying from a self-inflicted gunshot wound during an exchange with security personnel. He was born in Lebanon, first entered the U.S. legally in 2011 before being naturalized as a citizen in 2016. So we're importing our own problems here. Do you know why the attack wasn't worse? This is fascinating. The guy drove the vehicle into the synagogue, but I guess because his search history didn't include details of the building, he drove it into a hallway and he couldn't open the door. So he's surrounded and trapped, and he couldn't open the door, so he killed himself. Remember, everybody's saying, oh, he was just sad about his nephews or his brothers or whatever. No, he was a full-on terrorist and had been researching this stuff since January. More stuff we're finding out today. Today's a day of revelations. Finding out a whole bunch of more stuff here. So, this according to Hamas. And you know how I hate quoting Hamas, but the fact that Hamas just played themselves is beyond belief to me. Here we go. You ready for this one? Hamas says it will pay stipends to around 50,000 widows of fighters killed by the IDF in the war it initiated. Wait a second. Hamas's casualty numbers, which come from the Hamas Ministry of whatever, the Gaza Ministry of Health or whatever, say that 70,000 civilians were killed in the IDF attacks. Wait a second. But 50,000 people are being paid by Hamas for being terrorists of the 70,000. Oh, they weren't civilians. Oh, they were members of Hamas. Oh, so what you're saying is 20,000 civilians died, which means that Israel took extreme precautions, which means that's less than a 2-to-1 ratio. Okay, guys, I've had it with this. How many times did I tell you this is going on? And these are from Hamas's own numbers. Oh, by the way, the UN today admitted that there was actually sexual assault and rape and all that stuff on October 7th. So it's just a day of revelations around here. A day of revelations where, yes, there were a whole bunch of lies told, and we're finding out the truth of all of them. Remember when I said people aren't pro-Palestine, they're actually pro-Hamas in a lot of these cases? They're actually pro-terror? Well, Democratic Senate hopeful Abdul El Sayed said that the reason he didn't say anything about Khomeini being taken out is because there's a lot of people in Dearborn, Michigan who are sad. Sad the Ayatollah's gone?
I just don't want to comment on Khamenei at all. Like, I don't think it's worth even touching that.
Really? Why do you think that is? Well, according to the Washington Free Beacon, he went on to say how sad everybody is. How sad everybody is in Dearborn, Michigan, that the Ayatollah is dead. Really? This was audio that the Washington Free Beacon got from a private campaign strategy call. So, talking about Dearborn, Michigan, why would you send somebody like Rashida Tlaib to Congress? Because you agree with her. because you agree with her. Other narratives that are being destroyed today. Here's a good one for me. You know how the left always says there's no plan regarding Iran? No plan whatsoever. Well, Marco Rubio destroyed that when he was being interviewed by George Stephanopoulos in less than a minute.
This operation, okay, and that's what this is about very specific objectives. The president laid them out on the first night of the operation. I'll repeat them to you now because I hear a lot of talk about we don't know what the clear objectives are. Here they are. You should write them down. Number one, the destruction of their Air Force. Number two, the destruction of their Navy. Number three, the severe diminishing of their missile launching capability. And number four, the destruction of their factories so they can't make more missiles and more drones to threaten us in the future. All of this so that they can never hide behind it to acquire a nuclear weapon. That was our objective from the beginning. That remains our objective now. We are on pace and, in fact, ahead of schedule on some of those things, and we are going to achieve those things in a number of weeks, not in a number of months.
Oh, but there's no clear objective, Ari. There's no clear objective. This was the craziest question I think I've ever heard asked in the White House press briefing room. A reporter asked Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, do you see any conflicting messaging between the U.S. and Iran? Okay, what motivation would Iran have to lie? What motivation would Iran have to just make stuff up out of nowhere? Do you know that Khomeini was tweeting today? Ayatollah Khomeini. He's super dead, very dead. They admit that he's dead. But somebody's using his Twitter account. I don't think it's him. From beyond the grave. I don't think it's him, but he was tweeting today. What motivation would they have to lie? Here's Caroline Leavitt calling them out.
You addressed this a little bit in the opening, but just to follow up, because Americans are sort of seeing these conflicting messages between the United States and Iran. I know the president insists that negotiations are underway. As you just mentioned, he's also said that Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points. We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take an Iranian regime that has repeatedly lied about our country, about our values, about everyone in this room, frankly, for nearly 5 decades. So I think the American public are smart enough to understand that.
Yeah, the problem is the media still hasn't learned their lesson. Everything they claimed by following the Gaza Health Ministry, all garbage. Now they're making the same mistakes again. What does the Iranian regime say? Let's believe them. Their entire government is dead. Dead. Their entire country is basically has no resources left, no defense left whatsoever. Their Navy is sunk. Their Air Force is blown up. Their police stations, which are the police that are oppressing people, the IRGC, are being taken out one at a time. Their leaders are being taken out one at a time. Their oil is on the menu next. But they're winning. They're winning. And even though literally last week, there was this claim, oh, no, we're not negotiating with President Trump. Then 5 minutes later, you find out they were negotiating with President Trump. The media still hasn't learned their lesson. It's one thing to say we want to question the administration. That's fine. I understand that. But your source is the Iranian regime that says death to America? Your source is Hamas? Your source is random idiots on Twitter? These are your sources you're going with? And yet they keep falling for it time and time again because they hate President Trump that much. Unbelievable, yet not unexpected. Up next, my friend, Starbucks is laying off workers, but not for the reason you think. And actually, me, the pro-business guy, is actually really in favor of this. We'll tell you why when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, everybody, we are having some problems with our podcast platforms. So if you listen to the show on Apple or Spotify, for some reason, the show ain't working with them. It's working fine at KVI.com. It's working fine on the KVI app, but for some reason, it ain't working with them. I don't know if we're being shadow banned. I don't know if it's a tech issue. We're trying to find out. But in the meantime, make sure you download the KVI app. Make sure you download it right away. And that way you get the show no matter what, and that is 100% entirely in our control. I wonder if they're trying to silence the most dangerous show on the airwaves. We have no idea. We'll find out, hopefully, and get this fixed as soon as we possibly can. Well, Starbucks found their own solution for all their striking workers. You remember we told you a little while ago that Starbucks was going to be closing 5 high-profile stores here in our area? Like the one right next to the Space Needle. I mean, Kevin, is there ever not people at that store before? I go there all the time. And there's always somebody there. Whether they're homeless or not, that's fine. But there's always kids on field trips or whatever walking over there. Even when it's not the summer. The summer, good luck. That place is an absolute zoo, right?
Yeah, there's always somebody there.
Always somebody.
Always.
Yeah, they're closing it because it's one of the union stores. They're closing the ones near different hospitals because they're the union stores.
So when that one goes away, where is the closest one to where we work now?
I found out, sir. I found out, thanks to you and young Zach, I actually found out where the closest one is. I have to drive. I have to get in the car, and I have to go over near Taco Time because that drive-through is the closest Starbucks.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Wow. So when we started here, there was 2 a block away.
Yes.
At different ends of that street,
Yes.
and then one at the Armory at the
Yes.
Seattle Center.
Yes.
So there was
no, wait.
3.
There was actually one at the top of the Space Needle also, but that one was touristy, and you're not going to pay the money to go to the top of the Space Needle.
And there was one in the Safeway.
Yes.
So we had 5 that you could walk to.
Technically 5 within walking distance, and now they are all gone. Well, the one technically, I don't think they close till tomorrow. It's like April 1st or something. I think they closed this week. The one near, I may have to go over there for my last hurrah and bye-bye so I can be even more hyped up when I come on the show. I might have to do that tomorrow. But, yeah, that's the end of Starbucks in our neighborhood. And
I went to Japan. You know what was everywhere over there?
Starbucks?
There were Starbucks, but also Tully's.
Oh, that's fun. Wait, didn't Tully's get bought out by Starbucks?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, Seattle people, you can text us, you can call us and give us the update. I was pretty sure that Seattle's Best and Tully's both got bought out by Starbucks. I might be wrong, but I thought that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't know, but Tully's was over there. I ran into a Shakey's Pizza and also a Sizzler in Japan.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it crowded?
No, the Sizzler actually kind of was. Yeah.
Sizzler was crowded.
Yeah.
Fascinating. They just want that American food. I love it. I love it. So, anywho, they're closing these locations because they don't want to deal with the union anymore. Now, let's remember, the one near the University of Washington, that one was closed for 3 months because the workers refused to show up. Refused to show up. They were on strike. They wanted the Red Cup Rebellion. They started it at Thanksgiving. They were actually filing for unemployment because they didn't like the wages they were getting from Starbucks. So, of course, Starbucks said, pound sand, bye-bye. We've had enough of your nonsense. We pay your medical bills. We pay for you to go to college. And this is not a career that you have at Starbucks. Pouring coffee the rest of your life should not be your aspirations. You want to own a Starbucks? That's very nice. You want to own a few coffee shops? Fine, that's lovely, that's nice. But your career goals should not be, I want to pour coffee the rest of my life. And yet, that's what these people are entitled to. We have somebody calling in who might have some expertise for us. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Beth in Seattle. Beth, what's going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about coffee shops because I just talked to someone who operates 2 coffee shops, one in Seattle, one in Shoreline, and he's actually
Are you making coffee in the background? Was that what I just heard? Did I hear espresso going?
No, it's traffic.
Okay.
But he was saying that you can't, with the new regulations and the minimum wage, you can't make money selling coffee, having a coffee shop in Seattle.
Right. And that's probably why they're closing them down. I mean, they're closing the high-profile ones. So is anybody surprised by this? I wouldn't be surprised by this. Beth, you always are a fountain of information. Do you know if Tully's and Seattle's Best got bought by Starbucks? I was pretty sure that they did.
I'm pretty sure that they did, yeah.
Okay.
But it also, in our area, we used to have like 5 Starbucks in North Seattle near us, and I think all of them are gone.
Yeah. And this
that's
is
in
something
Lake
else.
City
Right. I'm seeing
area.
this else is
Okay.
that I was reading Starbucks releases. They're opening Starbucks in other locations. They're opening them other places. They're just closing them here because they don't want to deal with it anymore. Beth, do you think this is similar to what we saw in California, where you saw a whole bunch of these restaurants closing up because of the minimum wage and all the other regulations?
Oh, exactly. I mean, I know people in the industry who've moved out of the state because they can't make a living anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And restaurants are closing, shops are closing. They can't make a living
Yeah,
with
exactly.
these wages.
Yeah, when Starbucks corporate says bye-bye, when Howard Schultz says bye-bye, and they're the ones that promoted a lot of this far-left insanity, yeah, I think the party's kind of ending, if not over. Beth, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Even in Bonnie Lake says, bye-bye, Ari. It doesn't matter which company got bought out by who here in Washington. They're all going to end up out of business. At this rate, we are going. Yeah, that's exactly right. This one from Forest Cat. Ari, I so admire your endurance, but please rescue yourself by moving rural. You know, the problem is the rural stuff's too far away from a synagogue, my friend. That's going to be pretty hard. And kosher restaurants. Though, worst news of the day, not that the Starbucks are closing. I don't know if young Zach knows about this. Krispy Kreme, no longer kosher in the entire country. Saddest day of my life.
More donuts for me.
Yes. Thank you, Zach, who just popped into the studio. No more kosher Krispy Kreme. This is like, I am so depressed. That is my favorite donut in the world. And it's not just here in Seattle. It's a national problem. Are they bringing out a bacon donut or something? Is that what's going on?
I have told you for years now that if you're going to have any donut in the world, that's the donut to have. You're not missing out on any other donuts.
That's what I'm saying. I know I'm not missing out on Dunkin' because Dunkin's kosher. I've had the Dunkin' before. I grew up on Dunkin'. But nope, now Krispy Kreme, no longer kosher. All right, this one here from Stu. Stu says Keurig and Dr. Pepper own Tully's? Okay, we're going to have to do some fact-checking after the show and find out about all this. But they're closing all these Starbucks locations. And the Seattle Times is like, oh, and they're laying off employees. Do you want that cancerous poison of that union insanity invading your other coffee shops? No, of course not. These are the people who are part of the Ventifada. They would show up at the Starbucks corporate headquarters to protest. They would show up, and even after Starbucks announces they're moving somewhere else, they're still demonizing Starbucks. It's like they're not going to be happy till these companies are Oh, that's what they want? They want these companies gone? It's basically like Atlas Shrugged. Oh, if the government can't have your train, your coffee company, nobody gets to have it. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Up next, I got new documents from the governor's office all about the Sonics and about his lack of involvement in bringing them back. We'll tell you all about it up next. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show, my friends. I gotta say, I am so happy that so many of you want me to move to your neighborhoods. Coming in on the text line, all these people tell me, you got to move here, you got to move there, there's a synagogue here, there's a synagogue there. I love the amount of you that want to rescue me from Seattle. It's very, very sweet. You're all like my own little Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. Very sweet of you guys. Do appreciate it. I got family nearby. I know, you're going to say, bring them all with you. You buy a house for half the price of what you paid in Seattle. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. But it is very, very nice of you guys to say that. But right now, we got a story you're not going to get anywhere else.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, an Ari Hoffman Show exclusive.
I filed that public disclosure request for all the documents, communications, even the Zoom recording itself for Bob Ferguson's meeting with Adam Silver, the first one we're talking about. And my question was, how involved was he in this really? And the answer is not at all. So here's what happened. New emails we got through public disclosure show that, remember when Bob Ferguson was out there raising the 12th man flag? And so many of you were like, I hope the Seahawks lose now. And it was before the playoffs, when they were on the playoff run, not even the Super Bowl. Turns out Turd Ferguson said to his staff, he wanted to talk to the NBA commissioner about the Sonics. I know how that goes. You're doing something, and it goes, hey, I really want to do this. So his team went to set up a meeting with him. But when they go to set up this meeting, they find out that Samantha Holloway, who's owner of the Kraken, and the Kraken CEO, Todd Lewicki, how do you pronounce something like that, we're already working on it, and we're close to making it happen as the prospective owners of the NBA expansion franchise. So Lewicki facilitated the meeting, but told Ferguson's team the concerns they had and that the NBA had, including the millionaire's tax, corporate flight from Washington, and the layoffs in Washington leading to people leaving the state. At this point, Turd Ferguson probably panicked, probably freaked out. It's my policies? It's what we're doing? No, it's the Republicans. They're bad and evil. So Bob's meetings appear to have been completely performative and may have been more to defend his lousy policies, which could have jeopardized the process. I haven't gotten the Zoom recording yet, but after reading these emails, I really want them. Here's the first email. This is from somebody named Joe who works in Bob Ferguson's office to somebody named Beth. Hi, Beth. I'm just getting back to my office after a great Seahawks 12th man flag raising with the governor. This is dated January 14th. The governor and I were chatting briefly about the Sonics, and he'd like to schedule a conversation with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Would you be able to help connect us with the appropriate contact point or point of coordination? Thank you, Joe Imperkoven, who's the policy advisor for outdoor recreation and tourism for Bob Ferguson's office. I know the turd is thinking to himself, oh, if I get the Sonics back, they'll always reelect me. That's what's going to happen. Yes. A Super Bowl win, a playoff win, and the Sonics. Yes. Okay. Then I get this one, which is from somebody named Judy Gall in the governor's office from Joe to Judy. Hi, Judy. Because the Kraken Climb Pledge Arena owners are leading the efforts for Sonics return, Todd would like the governor to call him first for insights, updates, and guidance on NBA outreach. You know what that is? Kevin, I've seen this before. This is more when you get the, oh, crap, he's poking around. All right, how do we coach him so he doesn't say the wrong thing and blow this deal for us? Because we're so close. Who are the people? Kevin, you've been out of town for a while. You may have missed this. Holloway and Lewicki, the Kraken ownership group, are the ones bidding to have the Sonics franchise here. They're the ones bidding on the expansion team. Todd said the governor has a cell phone, but if not, call this number here. If the governor would prefer for me to connect with Todd or have me set up a meeting, I'm happy to, but I want to pass along this update first. Doesn't that read to you like, oh, now he wants to talk to the governor? Where you been this whole time? That's what it sounds like to me, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sure.
Release the Zoom recording. Release the Zoom recording.
Yeah.
That's what I want. The Zoom recording. I'll tell you what, I dare you, Turd Ferguson, to release the Zoom recording. Otherwise, I'm just going to say, you had nothing to do with this. You and Chris Daniels had nothing to do with this whatsoever. But you're taking the victory lap. If the Sonics come back, it's because of the Kraken ownership group. If the Sonics come back, that's why. Now, maybe they said, hey, let's use this guy. Maybe they said, what would be really nice? Can you use that eminent domain thing you have and snag us this parcel of land we really want out in Northgate for our practice facility so it's right next to the Kraken Iceplex? I'll put the basketball facility. Could you do that? Maybe through eminent domain. Maybe it wasn't so much, we don't want him screwing this up, but how can we use him to our advantage? Those are the only two possibilities I'm seeing here, guys.
If that's the case, let's speed it up because I live out that way, so I want all of the stuff that comes along with it. So far, I've been promised a Trader Joe's. There's supposed to be some sort of a dough zone or something coming in there as well with Chinese dumplings. I'm like looking forward to that.
Okay.
Well, let's get on it. Let's go
let's
here.
do it. Hey, I love the Iceplex. I mean, all my hating on Climate Pledge Arena, that Iceplex, really nice.
Yeah.
Really well done. I've even skated there a couple times with like the synagogue groups and stuff, okay? Taking the little kids out there. They had this event for Hanukkah a few years ago. Lovely. Had the donuts. Lovely. It's a beautiful facility.
It is a beautiful facility, but I was told other things would be coming along with it. Let's get going here. You took away my Azteca.
Oh,
I need
so you want
else.
I see what it is. I get what's happening here. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from George and Kenmore. George, only got a minute left. What's up, man?
Yeah, we need to find that billboard from the SST days and put a new one up there with the last person out of Seattle turn off the coffee maker.
That's good. I like that. Oh, but George, there's not going to be anything to power the coffee maker, so I think it'll be off already, don't you?
Well, we could put up a poster of Whoops out there, too.
We could do all these are good ideas, George. These are great ideas. I love them. I love all of them. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines. Put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And as I say all the time, we have the best audience because our friend Matt Gilbert did a quick search for us through Grok to find out if Starbucks actually owns Tully's or Seattle's Best. He says that Starbucks was among the bidders when Tully's filed for bankruptcy in 2012 and sought to buy some but not all of its stores in 2013. However, actor Patrick Dempsey's group, Global Baristas LLC. What, we got beat out by McDreamy?
I was going to say, I couldn't remember the guy's name, but I almost said McDreamy was trying to buy it for a second.
So hang on, you're going to like this. McDreamy won the auction with a $9.15 million bid, outbidding Starbucks. The Tully's retail chain struggled afterwards, faced lawsuits and financial issues, and largely closed by 2018. So I guess it's just a McDreamy now. I guess it's not real anymore. Separately, in 2009, before the bankruptcy, Tully's sold its North American wholesale coffee business, brand, and roasting operations to Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, which is now part of the Keurig Dr. Pepper. Wait, Keurig Dr. Pepper? That doesn't really work the way it sounds. Why can't it just be Keurig or Dr. Pepper? The Keurig Dr. Pepper? That's a little weird. It still owns the Tully's brand for packaged wholesale coffee, like K-Cups, in North America with no retail cafes under that name in the U.S. today. So Starbucks never acquired Tully's as a whole. Okay, what about Seattle's Best? According to Grok, Seattle's Best did acquire Seattle's Best along with the related
Starbucks acquired Seattle.
Starbucks. Starbucks acquired it with the Torrefazione Italia brand in 2003 for about $72 million from AFC Enterprises. It used the brand as a lower-priced complementary line for grocery, food service, and some retail locations. However, in 2022, Starbucks sold Seattle Best coffee brand to Nestle as part of a strengthening their Global Coffee Alliance partnership. Nestle already handled distribution of Starbucks packaged products. The deal closed around the end of 2022, and Nestle now owns it for wholesale, ground, whole bean, and K-Cup products. Starbucks may still roast some of the coffee under the agreement, but it no longer owns the brand. Well, that's interesting. So it did own Seattle's Best, but did not own Tully's. And Tully's even lost the roastery, which was Rainier Brewery, which is now, once again, Rainier Brewery. That's right. Beer always wins.
No, I don't think it's a brewery. I think they just put the R up there.
I think they did just put the R up there.
There's
I think it's something else in there now.
Other businesses can rent out the space.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, too.
I can tell you that Tully's, like I said, are all over the place in Japan. And we were going someplace really quickly. We needed to grab something to eat, so we ducked into one. And they serve spaghetti.
What?
And chili dogs.
Random?
Yeah. So they have like carbonara spaghetti and then just like, I think it's like a marinara sauce with like pancetta and eggplants.
This makes sense. You're going there for the American experience. So I always wonder from people who go, oh, there's a Chinese restaurant near your house, and I would love to ask somebody who's actually from China, hey, how does this measure up? And they go, what are you eating? This isn't Chinese food.
Well, it's odd because I think they kind of market it as more of an Italian thing. But I had some of the pasta. We had to get somewhere quick, and I had to shovel some. It was actually pretty good. It was more like macaroni and cheese sauce.
Sure, but you can't go wrong with mac and cheese.
No, I was like, and then a business guy came in a full suit and everything, ordered an iced coffee and a chili dog.
That's random.
And just blazed through that chili dog.
You don't put those things together.
I know. I'm like, what is going on, man?
That's like, there's this place called Carlos and Gabby's on the East Coast. It's a chain of kosher Mexican places, and it is not Mexican food. It is the sauciest kosher. I mean, it's delicious. I like it because I don't like Mexican food. That place is amazing. I don't order tacos there. I get a hamburger with pastrami on top of it, and people say, why are you ordering that in a Mexican restaurant? I love it. Okay, I'm about to give away one of our secrets of the universe. This story rolls around every year, and every year people ask me about this. You ever notice in the springtime when you go to the grocery store, some of the Coca-Cola bottles have a yellow cap on them? And you go, why do they have a yellow cap on them? And I will tell you, my friends, why. Kevin's shaking his head already.
I think I've heard this before, even before I knew you, but go ahead.
So I saw that Fox 13 had the story. All right, you're giving away our secrets. You're telling the Jewish mafia secrets. Don't do that. The Jewish worldwide conspiracy. It's because they're the ones who are kosher for Passover. What's interesting about those is they actually come from the Mexican factory where it's sugar where it's cane sugar. Cane sugar, not
high fructose.
Not high fructose stuff, because that's not kosher for Passover. So when you go through the grocery store, for me in New York, oh man, what I do is if you find those in the regular aisle, they're regular price. They're not marked up for Passover. So you want, like, you're looking, where can I find them? Where can I find them for, whatever it is, a soda bottle, rather than the $10 or whatever it is they charge you for the kosher Passover. Now, here's the best part. I'm going to ask you all a favor, because I'm letting you in on this big Jewish mafia secret, okay? The big cabal. Here's what it is. Do me a favor and just get them after Passover, because they're so hard to find around. In New York, you can find them everywhere. In L.A., you can find them everywhere. In Miami, you can find. Here, they're so hard to find that I got people begging me. They're like, Ari, we know you got the stash. I had a guy in synagogue this week come up to me. He's like, Ari, how much Coke do you have, and can you spare some? Because I think you got it before us. I'm like, I'll meet you behind the synagogue, and we'll do a deal.
You better hope no one's like standing by listening to this.
Right, exactly.
I just heard Ari. Is he dealing Coke now?
Yes, that's what it is. Dealing Coke right there. No. So here's the funny thing. One year, the grocery stores that I go to, the ones that used to be around here, they know that I love this stuff. So they offer me to sell me all the leftovers. I'm like, yeah, I'll take whatever you have. Just bill me afterwards. They delivered pallets of it to my house. Pallets of it. I had sitting behind my house. And my wife goes, you ain't bringing that inside. They sat outside my house. It was lasted long enough till the next Passover. That's how much soda we had in our house. And that was back when I drank soda at like every meal, which is really, really bad for you.
When does Coke usually expire?
I don't know.
Because I know Diet Coke, I'm more of a Diet Coke guy.
Yeah.
If you get anywhere near that expiration date,
Yeah.
it loses like
The
almost
fizz
all of its
and-
flavor. No, not even the fizz. It's just flavorless.
So I will tell you is that by the end there, it wasn't tasting real good. It just wasn't. I'd say a year is pushing your shelf life on that soda for sure. Anyway, now you have the secrets of why they have the yellow caps, and Fox 13 has the full story for you. Well, that's going to do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories and more exciting guests. You've been listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.